7:10 on Saturday, March 2nd, 2013. And this is the Salim Muwakkil Show on the talk of Chicago, 1690 WVON. To stream online, let's go to www.wvon.com. And if you hear my voice, then you know you've reached that place where we reflect on the news of the week and try to find our place in the mix. What we want to do is provoke informative, entertaining, and useful information and conversation. And it's important to me that we do all of that with respect, and we need your help on that. We want to model a mode of respectful conversation. So I want to know if you're ready to flex those muscles in your mind, because if it's 7 on Saturday, you know that it's time for Salim. And you also know what you have to do to join in. Just pick up the phone and give me a call at 773-591-1690. It's good to be with you on this second day of March, the month designated to observe the contributions of women in the world. Necessary rebuke to patriarchy, or a dent in the shield of patriarchy. Tonight, we will be discussing, among other things, the presidential signing of an order that is required by law to set in motion a mandatory across-the-board federal budget cuts. They were mandated by a 2011 agreement to raise the debt ceiling. They call it the sequestration, fiscal cliff 3, or whatever. Many nomenclatures have been used to label this thing, but it's an $85 billion cut in across the board, a blunt cut. Many governmental services will be affected, including shrinking unemployment benefits, rising food prices, especially meat and poultry. A lot of senior assistance programs, especially food programs, will be pared back, as well as a host of preschool programs, very, very effective preschool programs. Services and hours at national parks will also be cut, and there'll be longer lines at airports, they say. Other changes are likely to get worse as time goes on and there's no deal. But regardless of what the specifics are, these cuts really are a triumph for the doctrines of austerity, what I call the austeritarians. They have won, and it really bespeaks a troubling trend. All of the different forces in this debate are austeritarians. They all believe that austerity is one of the ways to stop this stuff. That the debt is the most important thing to focus on, not jobs, not stimulus, but the debt. Similar to the theories that are at large in Europe, the EU, what the EU is imposing, and why, for example, England is going through a double dip recession. The United Kingdom and other economies are also suffering. Many people in other countries are protesting against any austerity. In Greece and Spain and Italy, they're protesting. They're saying no more austerity for us. So there's some resistance to this, but that's what's happening in this country. Austerity has begun. And although Obama said in his response to it, he said, "We will get through this," he said, as he signed the order. And the White House had previously said that the cuts would be deeply destructive to national security, domestic investment, and to core governmental functions. They were trying to hype the damage that will be done to try to force the Republicans to reconsider, to be less recalcitrant in their objections to any kind of revenue increase. But the way things are politically, these Republican legislators really have no incentive to go for revenue increases. They are in very secure districts that have been very craftily gerrymandered, and so most of their constituents want them to stay the course, want them to hold the line against any revenue increases. So they have nothing to lose by being stubborn on this, no matter how much bully pulpit the president uses, and no matter how much the national sentiment seems to be in the president's favor. And that's what most of the polls say, that people want. They blame the Republicans for this, and it's clear that the Republicans are at fault. They are simply obstructionists. They won't allow anything to go through that they don't agree with, that is not revenue neutral or revenue negative. In fact, only tax cuts. So it's an impasse. We are at an impasse now, and whatever the effects of the cuts, the process that has been revealed is that we are at the victim. We are the victims of a government that is literally paralyzed by dysfunction. Now, I think the primary source of that dysfunction is this uniquely obstructionist Republican Congress. And it seems to me, the only thing that makes sense to me is that it's motivated by some racial animus. It seems to be uniquely obstructionist. I can't remember. They call Clinton names and in fact try to impeach him, but there wasn't the same kind of solidarity against any policy that may make him look good. That's exactly what they're trying to do. They're trying to make the economy suffer under the reign of Obama, so that he will be portrayed as an ineffective president. They're trying to make it a foregone conclusion that he will be ineffective by not cooperating. It's a despicable spectacle, quite frankly. And although the American people are fed up with it, most of the American people, as I say, these Congress people are in secure districts where they have right-wing constituents who are applauding their obstructionism. So the only way it seems likely that things will change is if there's a change in the political landscape in the midterm elections. That's a long way away, but it looks like that's the only hope for any substantial change. The bully pulpit, I don't think, will work. Robin Kelly won the Democratic primary for the seat. Former Congressman Jesse Jackson Jr. I won't call him disgraced congressman, as all the media seems so eager to do. I've never heard that adjective used as prolifically as it's being used to describe the former congressman. But hey, that's the way it goes. But the victory of Kelly was tantamount to a general election victory. It doesn't seem likely that Paul McKinley, her Republican opponent, will garner the kind of support he will need to effectively challenge her. Although you never know what can happen. But still, controversy surrounded her triumph because of this $2 million plus contribution in ads that was provided by the PAC of New York City Mayor Michael Bloomberg. Now, Bloomberg's interest ostensibly was to hand the NRA a defeat, to show how vulnerable the NRA actually was to political challenge, and that they weren't as powerful as they are depicted in the media. And I think that was Bloomberg's intent, and that is the intent of his PAC. They have pledged to take on the NRA and to forge more gun control measures in places across the country, and this was a perfect opportunity for them to flex their muscles, especially since Kelly's primary opponent, Debbie Halverson, was a strong supporter of the NRA and had received plaudits from that group. And some of the opposition to Bloomberg's intervention in the election was, his anti-NRA positions. Because a lot of people from outside invest in elections. When Harold Washington won, for example, when he ran, there were contributions from many people around the country who saw Harold as a hope in the wasteland of Reaganism. Reagan had just been elected, and it was a bleak landscape, and so a lot of people contributed to Harold because they saw him as the source of a possible a place of opposition to the Reagan landslide. So that's not new, but there are a lot of people who were angry at Bloomberg because he's anti-NRA, and there are many African Americans in this city who support the NRA's position, at least on concealed carry and other kinds of gun-friendly positions, because many people are convinced that the ability to carry weapons will make them safer from the violence in the city of Chicago. And so that's the source of their anger at Bloomberg's intervention in the Kelly thing. And it may provoke some kind of challenge to her, but I doubt if it will go too far. And she was simply a collateral beneficiary of Bloomberg's passion against the NRA, I think. Although, when she won, she trumpeted this as a defeat of the NRA in ways that she hadn't really been trumpeting before. So it's clear that money had some effect, and why not? Why not? I mean, she was against the NRA. It's not that that his money changed her position. She was anti-NRA anyway, and this simply bolstered her stance. And she took advantage of that. And I think that Bloomberg will be investing in other campaigns around the country that take on the NRA's very, very strong opposition to any kind of sensible gun control measures, including universal background checks, which just about everyone thinks should be imposed. All right, New Jersey Governor Chris Christie has changed his mind on accepting provisions of Obamacare in Jersey, and he's become the latest of I think 7 other Republican governors who have gone back on their previous stances against Obamacare or the Affordable Health Care Act. So it looks like that all of that rhetorical objection to what is an attempt to really provide the public with more medical care, although it's in my opinion an inadequate attempt, but an attempt nonetheless. It looks like that's finally going to win the day. The common sense is going to come through. Maybe they're part of that common sense caucus that the president was talking about today, that may forge some kind of deal. President Obama unveiled a new statue of Rosa Parks in Washington last week, Friday, which was a very gratifying event to see that sister commemorated in a way that does her justice. But just as he was doing that, right down the street, the Supreme Court was considering whether to scuttle one of the nation's most vital civil rights protections, the Voting Rights Act, in particular Section 5 of that act, a section that Supreme Court Justice Antoine Scalia characterized as a racial entitlement. And his attitude seemingly typified what many Supreme Court watchers say will be the court's overall attitude toward this provision of the Voting Rights Act. they predict that it will be a 5-4 vote against continuing this Section 5 provision, which allows for the federal government to step in when they think there's some unusual restrictions being placed on the electorate in a particular area. It came out of attempts by southern states and some northern states to devise these ingenious plans that would exclude black people from voting. And the recent election demonstrated that plan, those kinds of plans, are still in effect. In Pennsylvania, they tried to do something, and the president or the chairman of the state's Republican Party came out and said as much, that they were doing it to restrict the vote. And in Florida, there were similar attempts to restrict voting hours and whatnot, which was tantamount to suppressing the vote. And so it's still a great need for these kinds of protections, and yet the conservative majority in the Supreme Court is likely to vote against it if their arguments in the deliberations were any indication. Sometimes they're not an indication. Sometimes they can be simply an evidence of critical thinking, but it's probably unlikely. And most of the veteran reporters who watch the Supreme Court predict that it will not survive. Well, cigarettes have gone up $1 a pack due to a new tax enacted in Cook County, and the action on the block quickly reflected that change, from what I'm told. Most of the dealers out there now, most of them now are selling loosies and loose squares, cigarettes. It's amazing to see how the change in pricing patterns and taxing levies, how that has altered life in the underground economy on the block. And it's done it pretty significantly and pretty rapidly, from what I hear. Now, coke and weed dealers have been almost edged out. Heroin trade is still pretty robust, but the cigarette folks are the most numerous, and they have the most customers. Interesting. And maybe we'll see a new underground economy develop. There's a pipeline already from many Native American reservations where there are no taxes on tobacco, and people that's becoming like a hub of underground tobacco trade, underground tobacco commerce. Economic incentives and legal incentives are really an amazing thing, how they work together. Tobacco has become now, it's going to, law enforcement may shift its emphasis from cannabis and whatnot to tobacco, Interesting. What about the squabble between the Washington Post's Bob Woodward and the Obama administration? White House is angry because Woodward said Obama came up with the idea of the sequester and then moved the goalposts on the deal by including revenues where the original deal was not to include revenues, according to Woodward. White House vigorously disagrees with that, and then Woodward then accused the White House of sending him a threatening email. And until the email became public, the contents of the email became public, and it revealed that it was anything but threatening. But what the email did do was correctly predict that Woodward would regret the whole thing, because that's what the email is. It was revealed to have been sent by Gene Sperling, who's a White House aide, and he simply said that he thinks that Woodward would regret his take on this once it became public how the negotiations actually went. And in fact, I think that is indeed what has happened. Woodward is regretting his take because it's clear he was wrong on this. And Woodward has a reputation of being some sort of a progressive journalist, but he's for a long time has been really close to neoconservative in his perspectives. Certainly right of center, but close to being a neoconservative acolyte or even ideologue even. But he has this reputation as being this deliberate and objective journalist, and I think that's an incorrect reputation. So he was revealed a bit. What about this model, this white model playing African Queen? A lot of people are angry about that. A lot of models are saying there's a lot of black models that could have been used. Why not use black models instead of putting brown tint on a white model to play an African Queen? It's really becoming a pretty interesting clinic on how racial attitudes have been changed in subtle kind of ways since the ascension of the first black president. And change, by change, I don't mean all positive. I mean in many ways it changed for the worse. And it's interesting to see how that is working out. In Detroit, a lot of activists there are saying that the state is taking over. The white colonialism, the state government, and white executives are taking over the city of Detroit, and executing actions that are normally reserved for the autonomous leadership of that city. But the state is poised to take over all vital decisions of the city, thereby really rendering the city government irrelevant by this agreement that unless Detroit could prove it would be fiscally responsible, it could prevent that prospect of the state taking over. It hasn't been able to do that, and so now the state is poised to take over. It's a depressing and distressing development in the city of Detroit. Okay, well, hear what's on your mind. You know what to do to get started. 773-591-1690. Call in and let the world know your thoughts. We are going to go right to the phones now and see what is on Kevin's mind. Hey, Kevin, how you doing, brother?
Hey, brother Salim, how are you, man?
I'm good, man. How you doing?
I'm fine, man. I haven't talked to you since your birthday.
Oh,
but I've been listening. I've been on my little listening sabbatical, so to speak. Okay. Hey, man, you lay out one hell of an intellectual smorgasbord, man. You got a lot of stuff going on, man. So since I'm in the spirit of Women's History Month, like Danica Patrick, who was in the pole position, I'm grateful to be in the pole position on your show, brother. So I'm gonna be jumping out hard and fast. I'm gonna be hitting some issues, man.
A lot of people didn't think she would be able to hold that pole position, but she did it.
Okay. Well, a little later with that one.
Okay.
As usual, brother, like I said, you lay out one heck of a meal. I was listening when I was on my so-called listening sabbatical. You had this one brother that keeps calling you, man, calling you out. And he's complaining about you using these big words.
Right. The brother who had contempt, right? That's
right, contempt, man. And so I got one word for him, and that word is called prestidigitation. It's called sleight of hand, and that's pretty much what I want to talk about right now. Isn't it funny? I'm going to hit this one real quick, Salim. You can comment on it later. Cigarettes in jail are just come out with the same type of weight and value that cigarettes on the outside. I've been telling these brothers for a long time that you'll be able to go to Walgreens and get your weed and your crack and your heroin and everything else with a prescription. But cigarettes will become the new currency on the street.
Yes, sir.
You already got corners that are $400 and $500, man.
That's right.
So right now you got drug dealers taking out ads.
Yes, sir.
Prestidigitation, sleight of hand, switching things around. Women's History Month. Isn't it funny, right, that when they bring out the images of women and gender equality, we usually get that image of Rosie the Riveter, right?
Mm-hmm.
She's got that bandana on. She's flexing her biceps. But, brother, long before Rosie the Riveter was doing it, we had black women doing work that men were doing.
That's right.
They were riding wheels, hauling, picking, pulling mules, plowing in some instances, and then they would wheelwrights, changing handbrakes, and then had to go to the big house and bake a cake and feed Miss Ann's babies, which, mind you, she had to feed her own and feed the nation's babies. White people were fed off of black memories.
That's right, man. Absolutely.
She fed the country. What are you talking about? Women's History Month. Don't show Rosie the Riveter. I want to see Sojourner Truth. I want to see Harriet Tubman. That's who I want to see for Women's History Month.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Now,
very good point, man. Very good point. I mean, I don't think we fully comprehend the role that black women have played, not just in our history, but as you point out, in the history of this country. And there was an attempt, Benetton, the Italian haberdasher, is known for putting out these images of multiculturalism to sell their goods, And so they had this one image of a black woman suckling a white baby with a bare breast, in a kind of risque way that European ads often do. And it went over. It was a very popular ad in much of Europe, but the ad simply could not be, it was not compatible to American sensibilities because of the fact that so many black women actually did that. In Europe, it was an ironic image or some image of artistic risk-taking, avant-garde risk. But in this country, it had that very negative racial connotation because of that history.
I think, Salim, if they wanted to be a little more accurate with that, then they should have had the black woman feeding Uncle Sam in his diaper with the red, white, and blue diaper on. How this country suckled off of us.
Dig that.
Now, can I talk real quick to Salim about men behaving bad in Rome?
Yes, sir.
I don't want to offend those in the Catholic faith. And most of you guys know that the Pope turned in his red Prada shoes. Some say it happened because he was threatened by the gay mafia. And I don't know what kind of offer they were going to make him. But that remains to be seen. But the point is, this is the first time that you had not the first time, it's the second time in 700 years?
Something like that.
Since the Pope resigned. So I'm wondering now, just the tenets of the faith. If he's the vicar of Christ, can you become unvicarized? How do you do that? So you have two of them? Well, he's the Pope Emeritus, so he loses all of his Christ attributes, and they're given to somebody else. Possibly a black man, maybe. I don't know. But once again, we got
black man is high in the running, right?
Yeah.
Turkson.
Yeah. Actually, there's two of them, right?
Right.
And then they often say there's three other African popes, but they don't say if they were black or not.
Right, exactly. And they were popes during the time when Rome had colonized much of Carthage and that part of North Africa where they came from. And so they could well have been Roman or something else, something other than African.
That's what I was thinking in my research. I was like, well, they never said
something other than black. I mean, they could have been born there and raised there, but there was, many white people in that area during that period.
They do say that one of them, there's strong evidence to say that one of them possibly was black, but the other two probably not. Also, you hinted on this one earlier, brother, about men behaving bad in Rome with the Supreme Court.
Yes. With
us rightfully giving accolades to Rosa Parks. Down the street, these guys are steady picking away at them.
Absolutely.
You got Sotomayor, Ginsburg, Kagan, and Breyer on the liberal side. And then you had, on the right-wing side, Scalia. I'll get to him in a second. Roberts, Thomas, and Leo. Thomas, who sat there and didn't say a word.
As usual. Not even a joke this time.
No, and Scalia just outright come up and started channeling Justice Roger B. Taney.
Man.
Remember him from Dred Scott?
Yeah, that's what he sounded like. That's
yeah.
exactly.
I'm like, are you channeling Taney, man?
Yeah.
Black man has no right. We should respect all of this here entitlements.
Just because.
Yeah. I thought that the 14th Amendment and 15th Amendment gave you equal protection. First of all, 13th gave us freedoms. 14th equal protection. 15th the right to vote.
Right.
So I mean, if you're a citizen, you're entitled to that.
Entitled. You said the word entitled.
Entitled. Okay, so I guess he's saying that we're in a post-racial era now, so we don't have to give them respect any of those ends' rights.
You know, what he and really what was so egregious about his statement was that this is right after the Congress. This Congress with conservative, antediluvian members voted 98. The Senate 98-0, all unanimously to reinstate the Voting Rights Act, and including Section 5.
Section 5, right?
And he says his point is that okay. Once you give people a racial entitlement, it's almost impossible to do it politically, so it has to be done judicially. That's his reasoning, and it is exactly the thing that's so ironic about it, man. Kevin, is that it is exactly the argument that many strict conservative constructionists have said about the court all along, that the court should stay out of legislation. The court should be strictly a judicial body concerned with constitutional issues and not legislation. And here's legislation that the most conservative member of the court is talking about. So, man, it's such a contradiction. It's so overt that it's almost enough to vomit about just looking at it.
It smacks of the fact that he needs to recuse himself with that type of attitude. I mean, and he said all of this in the face of we just came off an election where we saw long lines. Yeah, exactly. Where we saw the desperate allocation of voting machines, especially in urban areas. And you don't think that? It is the most telling thing. Salim, the Democrats won 5 million more votes than the Republicans in the House, but they got less seats. So if that's not evidence of gerrymandering and swapping things around, it smacks of it. And so these people, they don't feel that the government should give them any oversight when they want to change voting laws. But when you're racist, you don't get to get beyond Section 5. It should apply to you forever. And mind you, let's apply it to any state that's got a Republican governor and a Republican state senator, Secretary of State, black or white. Remember Ken Blackwell? And, of course, Catherine Harris, who is a woman, mind you, and should be concerned about women being disenfranchised. Or Ken Blackwell should be concerned about black people being disenfranchised. But something about the Republican Party, when they practice their prestidigitation on these guys, they change.
Yes, sir.
Hey, brother.
Thank you, man.
You're more than welcome.
All right, Kevin. Take care, brother.
Bye-bye.
All right, brother Kevin. Let's go to Joshua. Hey, Joshua. How you doing?
Hey, how you doing, Salim?
I'm well, man. Well.
I wanted to speak on Fat Tony and his dissertation.
Fat Tony?
Yeah.
Tony Soprano?
Scalia.
Oh, okay.
You know what I'm talking about.
Okay, brother. I mean, but he reminds me a little bit of Soprano, man.
Yeah, well, that's cool. And I could expect that. I have no problem with that. He is who he is. What right. I have a problem with is Clarence. I'm scratching my head. Ooh. I'm toe tapping.
And I'm
scratching where I don't itch.
And I'm not saying a word.
And you know what? This Yazzabalda, we sick, is really. He's a disgrace.
I agree, brother.
He is. I mean, I can understand Italians being proud of Tony Scalia. Mm-hmm. I have disgusted with this Yazzabalda, we sick boss, Clarence Thomas. He is disgusting as an individual.
Yeah, he is, brother.
Any colored boy. I'm talking about, Alan West, Scott.
In South Carolina.
Yeah.
The new senator.
Yeah. Any colored boy or woman that's on Fox News, they are disgusting. I mean, they are. These people.
You sound pretty angry, Brother Joshua.
Yeah, you know what? Any man of reason should be disgusted.
I think so. I think so. I don't know. I agree, and I think I just think that we need to that there is a lot of that same kind of disgust that you are expressing. I hear from a lot of people, man, and it seems like it's fertile for activism. It could be organized in a way that could really make a difference. What do you think?
Well, I don't know, Brother Salim. I'm just so disgusted with these individuals that I have just mentioned, to the point that I can't even see straight. So it wouldn't be fair to have an intelligent comment on that at this point in time, because my head is pounding.
I got you, brother. Thank you, man. Appreciate
Have
it,
a good
Joshua.
one.
You too. I hear Brother Joshua, and I bet a lot of you feel that way. I just don't know what the value of that is. Can we parlay that into something effective that can change things, or what made me think about how things have deteriorated is this new study by Brandeis University that talks about how the wealth gap between black and white Americans has widened exponentially in the last 15 years. That rather than narrowing, the gap is widening considerably with no sign of being attenuated anytime soon. And then the excuse of these people who painted this model brown to be an African queen. Their point was, hey, we don't need African women. We don't need people who are genuinely African. We can alter reality enough using what we want to use and X them out if we want to. Essentially, that was their excuse in this thing. African Americans, or African people, need some kind of offensive, some sort of PR offensive, and it has to be done soon. Okay, let's go to Brother Maceo. Hey, Maceo, how you doing, my brother? Maceo, is that you? Are you there, sir? Hello.
Hey.
Salim. Okay, got you, man. Got you.
Oh, yes. Good evening to you.
Good evening.
And good evening to the WVON family and Woods, Albert, Roxanne, and Anita and Hotep the Manzong. Salim, I would like to address one of your topics, and also I'd like to ask you the question, who was the black swallow of death? That's my second part. But in reference to the Voting Rights Act of 1965, I agree with you 100%. You have to have some type of check and balance in place because of what these particular states have, Alabama, and as you said, Florida, and now Pennsylvania are doing. If these measures are not in place, then you leave it to the discretion of these states who have shown themselves to be very racist and very manipulative of the vote and of the voting.
No question.
And, you had this at the end of Reconstruction, when after post-Reconstruction, when that happened, you had state rule, had the white supremacists take over the states in the South and impose their own will.
They redeemed the states, as they said.
Say that again?
The redeemers, that's what they call themselves.
Yeah, but yeah, and they did exactly what some of these states are trying to do now.
Exactly
so,
right. Mm-hmm.
And I don't know whether you saw Inside Washington last night, but I agree with Mark Shields in that the Supreme Court shouldn't really be in the position to be trying to make legislation because they're not.
That's always been the conservative mantra.
Mm-hmm.
Get these activist judges out of here. We want simply constructionist judges who deal with constitutional issues and that alone, and get out of the legislative activism, and that's exactly what they're doing.
Oh yes. And the thing about it, if you're going to do something with this, what you call Section 5, it may as well, how can you say it, make it pandemic.
That's right. Make it national. Make it a national. Make it apply to across the country rather than
absolutely
right.
Because ultimately it was the South that was doing this, but now you have northern states that are doing it too.
That's right.
So, but in reference to my question, do you know who the Black Shadow of Death was?
Shadow of Death?
Shallow. Shallow of Death.
No, I don't.
May I say a little bit about him?
Sure.
Okay, his name was Eugene Jacques Ballard, and he was born in Columbus, Georgia in 1895 and left home at the age of 11 with a band of gypsies who taught him how to race horses, and he ultimately became a jockey in the South. Then in 1912, he was a stowaway on this German ship, to Scotland. When he got to Scotland, he went to Liverpool and became a part of the Freedmen's Pickaninnies, a minstrel group, and then ultimately...
That's a hell of a name, ain't it?
I'm telling you. and then, dabbled in boxing too, but then in 1914, when World War I broke out, he joined the Foreign Legion. And as a part of the Foreign Legion, he was a part of the 3rd Marching Regiment at first, and then he joined what was known as the 170th Infantry, which the Germans nicknamed the Shallows of Death because of their heroism. And because he was black, he became the Black Shallow of Death. But he was so decorated. He won the Croix de Guerre as an infantryman, and then on May 5th, 1917, he got his pilot's license from the Aerial Club of France, and then he trained to be a combat pilot. And he became a combat pilot with the 93rd Squadron, Lafayette, the Flying Corps, and he had flying missions. And one of his missions, he took his plane upward into the sky, nose first, did a backflip, came underneath this German plane, then on the side of it, and then in the back of it, and then destroy it. But he was highly decorated by the French. When the United States entered into World War I late, they brought that racism over there. He was ultimately relegated back to the infantry, and then he served in World War II with New Orleans infantry, and then ultimately, as he was highly decorated and honored by the French. And then the United States ultimately, in 1994, posthumously honored him with second lieutenant in the Air Force.
All
but
right.
This story...
He was called the Shallow of Death.
The Black
Shallow of Death. Okay.
But he was the very first black fighting pilot. And this is during World War I, and this is before the Tuskegee Airmen. But a lot of... I got this article off of... the paper, and to my surprise, Henry Louis Gates wrote the article. The guy looks just like Wesley Snipes. It could be Wesley Snipes' father, or but looks just like him. But the thing is that he was the very first black combat pilot in history.
Very good, my brother.
Okay,
right.
Thank you.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it, Maceo.
Okay, have a magnificent week.
You too, brother. All
Bye-bye.
Right. Bye-bye. Okay, I'm sure you guys have heard about this amazing sinkhole in Florida. Guy was sleeping, and under his bedroom, a sinkhole opened up and swallowed the man, swallowed him. And then when his brother tried to save him, he heard some distant yells, "Help me, help me, help me." And he started sinking, and they had to come save him, or else he would have fallen in the sinkhole himself. And I heard some people talking about it. They still haven't gone in really to check him out. I think they tried an experimental program where they had a guy dropped into it, and he couldn't find anything. But for a while, they didn't even go near it because it was so unstable. It was still developing. You know, you got close to it, other parts of the land would sink. They still didn't know what the circumference of the hole was at that point. And it's under the house. It swallowed this guy. He was sleeping, from what they say. You talk about a nightmare. I can't imagine a more gruesome nightmare than, to be swallowed while you're sleeping. Whew, what a story. The other thing I wanted to mention is this trial of Bradley Manning, the guy the soldier who's accused of providing information to WikiLeaks, especially information about what's going on in Afghanistan when we were committing all of those gruesome kinds of incidents that verged on being war crimes, quite frankly. And Bradley Manning was seeing this happen and wanted to reveal it to the world in a way that would make that kind of activity clear, and cause people to condemn it and change it. And it reminds me of the Nuremberg protocols, one of the leading maxims to come out of that after World War II, when Germans were put on trial for what they had perpetrated during that war, especially the Holocaust and other kinds of atrocious behavior. One of the maxims that came out of that was that following orders is no excuse to commit a war crime. Many of the Germans who were put on trial said they were simply following the orders of the Führer to do what they had to do, and the prosecutor said, "Hey, following orders is no excuse when war crimes are the offense." And Bradley Manning he witnessed this country actually committing war crimes, and some of what he revealed made it clear that that's exactly what this country was doing, and so he simply followed the protocol of the Nuremberg Protocol, that following orders is no excuse. So he didn't follow orders, and he wanted to make it clear that we were committing war crimes. And so he's being treated as if he's the most despicable kind of traitor for that kind of activity. And it makes clear the hypocrisy, not just of this country. This country is certainly guilty of it, but most countries would be guilty of it. They postulate these noble sentiments and incorporate these sentiments into UN resolutions and whatnot. But when it comes to their own behavior and the kind of activity that ensures their own survival or their own triumph on a field of combat, they are likely to do anything. They're likely to go back on these particular provisions in an instant. And Bradley Manning was trying to reveal that about this country, and this country was embarrassed by it and attempted to squash him very, very crudely for doing what he was actually required to do by the Nuremberg Protocols. So here we have it. 810, the Salim Muwakkil Show on the Talk of Chicago, 1690 WVON. It is March 2nd, second day, Women's History Month. We just came off of Black History Month, and it has become, again, kind of this rote ritual in which we simply go through the kind of greatest hits, Black history's greatest hits. We don't develop the kind of contextual understanding of our history in this country that I think would help us in situating ourselves now. Why are we as we are? What should we be doing to change our situation? All of those things would be better understood were we more informed about our historical context, not just certain historical incidents or historical personages, but a deeper kind of texture. And I think women's history has attempted to do that because they've been more conscientious and tried to develop some sort of understanding of how women fit into this whole thing. Let's go back to the phones, and we will talk to, who is it, Mr. Wells? I think it's Mr. Wells. Mr. Wells, good evening. How are you, sir?
Assalamu alaikum. How you doing, brother
Walaikum
Salim?
salam, man. I'm well, brother. How are you?
I'm blessed. I'm well, too. Salim, I just want to touch on something quickly, something that developed over the last several weeks.
Sure.
With this, it was a challenging dialogue week before last, because the basketball game was on last week, I think, and you weren't on. The week before that, guy out of New York was quite vociferous and challenging you about your activism, and people were, I think there was a week after that, people were sort of, they didn't like how the guy had approached you, and I just ask you to bear with that brother, and when he calls in, don't squelch him. Allow him to, have his say, even if you might think he's an agent provocateur or whatever. Let the gentleman have his say. I'm just asking you to be patient and tolerant. And quickly I'm going to address this because there is a definite issue with black media, Salim, and propaganda, and then this whole thing about sponsorship, political influences of the corporate sector, those who can afford to have products on supply side economics and then to advertise their products and go through conduits of media to expose these products. And there's a direct relationship between that agenda and the policy agenda of this country. There's no way of getting around that. And what has happened in the black community and maybe other ethnic communities, those media outlets where we say, oh, wow, you let me speak and interviewed me, they're actually doing propaganda and suppression. We don't like to say that. Okay, that people get upset, oh, you can't say that radio station, newspaper owned by black people doing black people harm. Oh, yes, we can, too, when we measure what the ownership is benefiting as opposed to the subscribers, their condition. There's a big difference. And I'm just saying, I think where some of this angst comes from, I know for a fact that black media has caused much of the problem they say they were being objective about in reporting. There's no question about it. We don't have to get into the...
I hear you. I was.
Particularly in Cincinnati, Ohio.
Yeah, I wanted to hear where you were going. But see, with that brother, I understand. I have no problem, man, bringing up those kinds of issues. It's just that I prefer not for folks to become so ad hominem, because then I have to spend my time trying to diffuse.
Attack the man, ad hominem, attack the man.
Right. And therefore I have to diffuse that, and that takes away from the discourse. I don't want to spend time diffusing.
So I'm just saying, be tolerant as much as possible, because, see, I've had issues with Cincinnati, allegedly black-owned media, when we found out the guy out of Chicago, as the brother Dwight Patton had revealed, that there was a group in Cincinnati, Blue Chip Broadcasting, didn't own as much as they said they owned. Sam Zell out of Chicago was a controlling interest, but they always told black folks it was black-owned, but Sam Zell was a controlling interest. And when Zell said, I want my nickels back, they had to sell the stations. And Blue Chip, that the guy was talking about
used to own the Tribune as well.
Founders of Blue,
he doesn't now. He had to leave the Tribune for many of the same kind of management problems as well.
But then, Salim, I wanted to ask the community that I heard you say something about Scalia, all right? And if we're serious about who we don't like, because of the way that they go about their business. This gentleman has been on the scene for a while. And we're talking about going back to the Nixon years. We're talking about going back to being a Roman Catholic at Georgetown University, undergrad. With Bill Clinton with Georgetown undergrad. Bill Clinton went to Georgetown University as well, too. All right? So that's one relationship there with a Democrat. As well, he's Harvard-educated, law, just like Barack Obama and others. And Scalia belongs to the Federalist Society. So when we start saying about people who are obstructionists and they're doing wrong, the community, and I think you are a Barack Hussein Obama supporter, we have to start getting very clear about those that we say don't operate in our best interest and knowing who they are and those who we like.
Just because people go to the same school.
Distinct relationship.
Mr. Wells, just because people go to the same school, that doesn't mean that they are connected,
Salim, come on now.
I know a lot of people went to Rutgers, man, that I'm not connected to.
Come on now.
What?
This man is a member of the Federalist Society, just like John Roberts.
Federalist Society is a conservative consortium.
But wait
there are many conservative jurists who are part of the Federalist Society.
Wait a minute. Obama belongs to that group?
No, he's not. Obama's not a member of the Federalist Society.
Are you sure?
I am very sure.
Okay. Now, Roberts is a member of the Federalist Society.
Yes, he is.
Huh?
Yes.
I think you need to check to see if Obama is a member.
I know he isn't. I know he isn't.
If he's not, if you say he's not an official member, was he influenced by Federalist Society doctrine?
Certainly when he was at the Harvard, when he was the editor of the law journal, the Federalist Society has a significant presence.
So if he's not an official member, he can walk.
Well, he's had to deal with them. He's had to deal with them probably as ideological adversary, or at least. As some sort of a challenger, but he's never been a member. No.
But here's the thing, though. You can say, he's not a member, but look at his actions. I'll tell you all day long that Obama's a Republican if folks get mad at him.
I don't think that's much in dispute. I mean, the whole notion of what a Republican is has changed. I mean, Obama's policies are to the right, really, of Rockefeller Republicanism. But that's because Rockefeller Republicanism was a different species.
Every time the Republicans say we want to go this direction, Obama would outpace them. He made the biggest doggone argument about the corporate money should not come out the corporate account, should come out of the political action committees. The Supreme Court ruled we're going to let that deep well corporate bank account float campaign contributions that used to have to come out of people's check. Out of their paycheck, it didn't come out of the deep well border of that 1120 corporate account. It came out of the money out of people's pockets on a better government committee within corporations, not the 1120 account where it holds all the corporate receipts every year they tally up. Obama said he didn't like it. It was inappropriate. It was too much influence. But last election year, he started accepting the money rate the way the Republicans said we should let it be happen. If he didn't think it was cool, he should have never accepted any kind of camp and said no. They said, well, look, the money's on the table. We're supposed not to take any of that. Look, it's quite clear. I'm saying that people want to say, you're tired of Scalia, you're tired of these Republicans, these alleged obstructionists, they're agitators, actually. They're not obstructionists, they're doing agitation. Because right now, Peter King and Mark Rubio are not getting along. Rubio didn't vote for the Sandy money, and Christie was pissed off at Rubio. Now Peter King is telling folks in New York, do not give Mark Rubio one nickel 2016 presidential running money.
All right, my brother. I appreciate it, Mr. Well. Your phone is fading out a little bit.
Peter King is drawing the line on people. Black folks got to draw the line on people and hold that line.
All right, my brother. Thank you, man. Appreciate it. Mr. Wells, let's go to Steve. Hey, Steve. How you doing?
Fine. Thank you for taking my call. I did want to talk about sequester since you brought it up early on. I just tuned in when the program started. I think people do need to realize that there are certain myths about sequester, and both sides are obviously promoting their particular agenda when it comes to the way in which public relations are being handled here. And in terms of sequester, no, tomorrow, rather Monday and Tuesday, you're not going to see a dramatic defunding of services. Your life isn't going to change, and it's not as if you're going to go to the airport and, it's going to take you 2 hours because the TSA people won't be there. The reality is that for many of the government departments that are going to be cut, law dictates that they're furloughed, and that takes 30 to 40 days for that program to come into being. So it's going to be a while. In other words, there is a buffer. Having said that, that's one side of the argument. There are instantaneous cuts which will happen. So if you're collecting unemployment and you're past the 26-week mark, then your next check might be 10% lower than it usually is. So there are immediate shall we say, repercussions of this that people are going to feel. But on the other hand, there are things that, again, have a buffer zone whereby they're going to be able to address them and hopefully get past this issue. So it's not the end of the world, but let's also keep in mind that $85 billion is not $85 billion for this year. It's actually closer because we're into the fiscal year already. It's closer to $140 billion over the course of a year. This is over the course of 7 months, if we measure in terms of fiscal spending. So it's a lot more than what you may think it is. And also, let's keep in mind that both parties agreed that there were going to be programs that were going to be off limits. So though we're talking about
the so-called entitlements.
Exactly. So when we talk about across-the-board cuts of a couple of percent, which is something that the Republicans and libertarian-oriented groups are pushing, that's not 2% across the board. It's not the entire U.S. budget, governmental budget. It's 2% of discretionary spending with certain things coming off of the table. So, in other words, there might be some programs and agencies and so forth that could see as much as 10% cut. So it can have a real impact depending upon what you rely upon government for, what it means to you. So, like I said, both sides are trying to sort of play with the numbers in order to look more favorable. Quite frankly, I don't know where the Republicans are coming from, just in terms of taking a step back and just looking at it objectively from a political standpoint. It seems that they've doubled down on a losing hand. They really thought, they were flabbergasted, surprised, whatnot, going into the 2012 election because they really thought that America, had enough of President Obama,
right,
and the Democrats, and they were confounded to find
absolutely
that they lost seats in the House, they lost seats in the Senate.
But Steve, I think one of the reasons, of course, is that they exist in this bubble, and it is that bubble that doesn't require them to alter their course too much in this particular negotiation.
Exactly. And if you look at, as a matter of fact, there's a number of studies out there, very good scholarship on contested congressional districts in this country. And you'll find that there are very, very few
That's
as
right.
opposed to 10 and 15 and 20 years ago. So where they are entrenched, they know that they can survive. It's not as if they're worried about getting voted out of office.
There you go.
And the same thing, to some extent, for Democrats, but more so for Republicans, and because of gerrymandering, the 2010 census, and who was in control, then you're getting a population of Republicans who are disproportionately represented in the halls of power because of the way the lines have been drawn. But down the road, demographics is destiny, and they're just, they're not appealing to anyone, not the population.
It may not even be that far down the road. It may be 14, but 14 is still a long way away.
Well, yeah, and in that sense, I think that the Democrats are counting on that. They sort of see that there is no end game for the Republicans, and they figure we'll wait them out. And in 2014, we could take back the House, we could control the Senate, and with the president in the White House not looking to get reelected because he knows he can't run again, they might be able to push through some real legislation in the last 2 years. That's the thinking among, so to say, political scientists.
I've been hearing that as well. Yes, sir.
So, and the question then becomes, to what extent are we going to get sort of dragged along in this process? Because we've got another fiscal cliff beyond this one. I know this seems to be an ongoing drama. And frankly, a great many Americans just don't understand it, so it's not particularly on their radar. And because we keep being told, well, there's the fiscal cliff, well, we avoided that. We came to a last-minute decision, and resolution is going to take us further down the road. Then we've got this one, and we've got another one coming up in March, a governmental shutdown. And I don't think that people really believe that anything of matter is going to happen.
Right. The cry wolf thing. Yeah,
exactly.
I think
how
that's
often do you need to keep telling us that we're on the verge of disaster, and really nothing happens in our lives? So at some point, people just tune out and decide, I'm going to watch American Idol again.
and which incidentally I watched for the first time in any kind of serious way. And I even like Nicki Minaj. I think that she's more articulate than I thought she was.
Well, then I'm one up on you because I've never seen the show, and I'm proud to say that. I mean, I'm of the Noam Chomsky view school of thought that this for women and young people and the NFL and NBA are in many ways used as a giant distraction.
Yes,
and
indeed.
People care far more whether or not the Bears are going to have a good quarterback next year as opposed to being concerned with whether or not they're going to have enough in their retirement
Yeah,
fund.
I agree, man. I agree. All right, man.
Thank you,
Steve. All right. Yeah. And I don't think I'll look at it again. But I must say, Nicki Minaj is not quite the cartoon I thought she was. Although she's that too, but Back to the phones, Mike. Hey, man.
Hey, Salim, how you doing, brother?
I'm pretty good, brother. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing okay, man. This is Mike down in Dallas.
Hey, in
Good
Dallas,
show,
yes, sir. Yes,
as
sir.
usual. Steve, I thought made some very good points.
He usually does, man.
I am definitely for the sequester. I mean, the Republicans keep pushing the envelope, and they keep holding the president and Democrats as hostage every time we have to, raise the debt ceiling, and every time there's a budgetary issue. Well, now they sound like a bunch of hypocrites. Because it is going into sequester and there are going to be these cuts, then they can no longer say, well, the president is just spending, because now they have forced this situation into sequester, which by its own nature is forcing these budgetary cuts. And I'm hoping that the president will stick to his guns and just let things just play out and expose the Republicans for what they are. Also, I don't think he has to we don't have to take on the whole Republican Party. I think if we just beat the hell out of John Boehner and Mitch McConnell and Marco Rubio and a few others, I think the rest of them will fall in line, because they need to be held out as examples of what not to do. But there was another reason that I called, speaking of Black History Month and the state of America and Black America specifically. I don't think there's going to be any positive changes in Black America until we get a real revolution. Right now, there's a silent civil war going on. They're destroying Black people with a smile and a grin. The courts are not doing what they're supposed to do. The Supreme Court is making legislation from the bench, and just like you said, the widening gap between the haves and the have-nots is expanding. I don't believe we're ever going to come unless this president and maybe Hillary or somebody gets in there, and maybe, if we can kind of hold on to the status quo that is trying to get back in control now, we can maybe get back to where everybody's rights are protected. But I think until we see people like Harriet Tubman, posters of Harriet Tubman with a pistol busting a cap in the behind of one of these Ku Klux Klan people, pictures of Malcolm X, pictures of Nat Turner. I would hate to see things go that far, but at some point the marches are not working, and at what point do we say we're not going to tolerate this anymore? And what's happening is it's being done in such a way, I don't think people really realize how bad things have gotten. I mean, they know the prisons are getting full. Chicago just had 500 murders there last year, and it's going on in other places like Philly and Baltimore and certain parts of Miami and in other big urban cities around the world. We're not getting the education. We're not getting the graduation rates that we need, even out of high school, and the jobs are not there. So at what point?
But Mike, we haven't. You say that the marches don't work and whatnot, and you may be right about that, but there haven't even been marches. People haven't even marched about this.
Right. But even when
it is worse than you say. It is worse. Absolutely.
They don't seem to have the impact that they did when King was in office.
We marched. You remember, of course, the Jenna, Louisiana march, right?
Right.
That attracted so many people. And we were talking about a new civil rights movement is burgeoning right under our noses. And then suddenly, Barack Obama's campaign came on the scene, and all of that energy was dissipated into his campaign many of the people who are out there protesting in Jena and talking about a new civil rights movement became advocates of Barack Obama for good reason. I mean, it was a black presidential campaign, and that hasn't picked up since then.
Right. And I think until things really, there's actual evidence that there is a turnaround in the graduation rate, more black PhDs, and not only having an education, but your education matters. You can get a job with that education. It doesn't mean a damn thing if you got a PhD and you got to work down at McDonald's and the wealth gap is still widening. And that's what concerns me, is the deterioration of the progress and the economy when it comes to people.
So you see no hope?
That is a very, very
see
serious
no hope,
problem,
Mike?
and it could be very deadly.
You see no hope, my brother?
Hey, God bless you, man.
Oh, okay. All right. Brother Mike. I was asking for hope. I guess he doesn't see any. And, okay, let's go back to the phones. Mansong Hotep, my brother. How are you, sir?
Hey, Hotep, big brother. How you doing?
I'm good, man.
Hey, listen.
I just got, you know what? I just got your message, man. I'm sorry I didn't get back. I just got it today, though.
Oh, no problem, man. Hey, I know you're real busy. I was just hoping you would indulge me for a minute. The guy previous to Steve was talking about that guy who called in with contempt and called him a gentleman. He was anything but a gentleman. And I don't think you need to, in my humble judgment, give him another platform to show his disdain. We listened to him when you let him talk, and at best, his reasons for having contempt for you were shady and bogus at best.
He came back on, man, the other night, and I think he got that out of his system. He didn't come up with that again. So
did he respond to my critique?
I don't think so. No.
Yeah, well, I'm putting all Negroes on alert. Hands off, Salim. I got your back, brother. And I know Kevin and Sarah and all them do too, Listen, speaking of Kevin, I like his concept of listening sabbatical. I've been on one of those.
Yes.
Also, I think Kevin's right on with focusing on black women. Kawaida philosophy and the organization Us and those folks view Women's History Month merely as Black History Month Part 2. Because after all, Salim, we're not focusing on Shirley Temple, but on Shirley Chisholm and folks that, look like her.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? Now, I wanted to give an account of my work during February, and I agree that we do have some problematics with how we celebrate it. But, of course, those role models, that's part of Kawaida's suggestion that in our history we need to search for those role models that were subversive to the established order, and we can get juice from that, so that's a great thing. But again, Dr. Amos Wilson talks about we just can't just do that. There are other things that we need to be doing, and I believe many of us do approach the celebration of Black history or the observance and dramatization of our history in a contextual manner to be able to get something from it. Dr. John Henry Clark, Reverend Anyike, Amos Wilson, these are Ben Yakinen have advocated what you're talking about, being able to use our history better, and so
absolutely.
We're working on that one, Now, I think I mentioned to you that Dr. Kring had mentioned that conditions create, social conditions create consciousness and conduct, and I think you added the other part that I didn't say. The last time I talked to you, he also talks about consciousness can indeed create conduct, alleviating the negative social conditions. So if that was you I was talking to, I'm getting older, man. I'll be forgetting. You were right on it, Now, we must consciously, even though it's true, as you say, that we can't just merely exhort people, that can be a little problematic, but, it works many times also. But we must consciously, in my view, brother, help raise our masses' awareness. And I've been making a contribution on this level for many years, but in terms of this particular February, I have personally placed some wake-up, mind and heart-expanding reading material in the hands of 1,400 individuals. That's how I do it. You know, in the high schools, I've dealt with high school students this month, college and university students. I went to Harold Washington College, Chicago State, Malcolm X, National Louis University, Roosevelt University, and, you know, engaged the students and left them with something to ponder. You know, and I've also, of course, in the partying atmosphere with the partying people, the same thing. And, of course, with events like at St. Sabina when Reverend Wright and Lupe, I went out there, I was passing out the material.
Incidentally, were you there last night?
Well, I went to pass out the literature. You know, and folks were coming back to the door. Give me 3 of those. You know, give me. You know, so I appreciate people appreciating. You know what I try to do on that level.
Incidentally, let me say this right quick, Master. If there was anyone who attended St. Sabina last night and heard Minister Louis Farrakhan speak, please call and give us a report of what happened, what he said, and what was your opinion of the event.
I know Zakia went. And hopefully she'll call in, and probably some others. But I wanted to also ask you a couple of things before I end with my pitch, trying to get folks to go to my YouTube video. Are you going to have Nkosi Mundari on your show with his new book on genocide?
We've talked. We're working on that. In fact, I was trying to get him on one day. He couldn't make it, so we're trying to reschedule.
Okay, and I'm also trying to suggest to Brother Olumenji to reach out for the brother, you know, for a community session. You know, Olumenji has the white supremacy class, you know, session, and so that would be great, you know, to have him there too. Now, I would also urge you, Salim, to consider having Cam Howard on your show to share black redemptionism, you know, of Garvey, Chinwezu, and Amos Wilson. He's really sharp with that, you know, and he teaches that at the community and at the Amos Wilson Institute every Thursday, you know, because they're really into what must be done, you know.
Okay.
And so that would be, I'd probably put him in touch with you. Now, finally, I just wanted to urge your listening audience all over the country, if you have a computer, there are some great things on YouTube. Mark Sams has Viewpoint with Mark Sams. If you put that in the YouTube search engine, you'll come up not only with the few videos I have through him, but others, you know, Pat Hill and Professor Joseph Ben Levy, and just a whole slew of people. Also John Henry Clark, Dr. Ben Yakinen, and all those folks on YouTube. And I tell the young people all the time, you know, don't just be parked on the silly stuff on YouTube, the little sensational stuff.
You know what's really good, man, on YouTube? I don't know how familiar you are with this whole this genre, but it's the House of Consciousness in New York.
Okay.
A lot of brothers do these videos of debates and discussions, very crucial, very relevant discussions on nationalism, Pan-Africanism, philosophy. I mean, you know, the stuff that we talk about. And really some very enlightening stuff, man. So YouTube is an amazing source of
we have to use it to work for us.
That's right.
That technology. And so I would ask people, if you have a pen, my last name is spelled Kulubally, Kulubally, Mansong Kulubally.
I'm going to have to charge you pretty soon, brother. Go ahead.
Well, you know, hey, brother,
we
try to free the people, you know. You know, I don't get paid for this. This is sacrifice,
yes,
you know. But anyway, Kulubally Speaks is what you would put in the search engine when you get the YouTube screen. And there's 7 segments. It's a total of about an hour. And I would urge people to view all 7 segments. They're about 7 to 8 minutes long.
All right,
and it's a progression. So do that and put your young folks and adults at the computer screen. And let's get busy with some understanding.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I appreciate you, my brother. Much love, peace, and blessings to you.
And to you, my brother.
Right on.
Let's go to, let's see, Brother West. Brother West, Assalamu alaikum.
Salim. Assalamu alaikum, brother.
Wa alaikum salam. How are you, my brother?
Man, I'm just like everybody else, man. I've been listening and soaking in all this here whining and crying all black people doing. But look here, Salim.
You think it's whining and crying?
all these black people, man, whining and crying about the situation. We know how bad it is in America.
Yes, sir.
And you said something about hadn't been no marches, right?
One brother said there haven't been any. Well, yeah, there haven't.
No,
been.
why? Because all the people that was leading the marches, they eating good now. They sitting at the master table now. But look here, Salim. Here's the solutions. See, I come up with solutions. Here it is, man.
Okay.
For 1 year, everybody that's conscious, okay, you want to show America how they treat us disposable? So we're going to show the white racist America what the deal is. For 1 year, people that you have a few dollars only buy disposable goods. I.e. something to eat, toiletries, toilet papers.
Now
just buy disposable.
you always have these grand plans, man. People, you got to give people something simple to start with, rather than these expansive plans that you hatch on the air.
Sir, it's simple, sir. You just buy disposable goods, what you need, man.
Oh, okay.
I mean, nobody nothing new. Nobody. I know a lot of people got the income tax money, but to those that still have a few dollars, don't buy nothing new. Let's show these folks just buy what you need, and that's the second is a life, man. Gas for your vehicle, something to eat. If you have some work to be done, some kind of service, try to find somebody look like you that's black, man. That's the only way
you mean
get out of this, man.
don't use your disposable income for anything disposable. Only buy necessities. That's your strategy.
Yes, sir. Like say something to eat, man. Stuff household.
How would that? What effect would that have?
That will make a grandiose effect on all these iPhones, iPads, these smartphones, all these Michael Jordan shoes. And everything that's manufactured that we not making anyway. You see what I'm saying?
I think so. But wouldn't it increase the digital divide if we don't buy iPhones and get into the computer thing real heavy? I mean, we already have a digital divide in which African Americans are not participating adequately in internet commerce and whatnot. Why should we exacerbate that by not buying those kind of devices?
Well, Salim, I beg to differ, man, because it's just about everybody I know that's got a phone, a smartphone, and I know a lot of people on Facebook. A lot of people is already into the digital divide.
Yeah, you got a point. You got a point there, man. I think that smartphones has reduced. That the use of smartphones has reduced the digital divide quite a bit than what it used to be before smartphones became so prominent, you know?
Because you imagine how much time black people spend on the phone just steady chatting about nothing, man.
Yeah.
And I come to the conclusion now, man, if I'm talking to somebody, we ain't talking about something trying to uplift the race, I don't have nothing to say to them, man. I ain't with this BS no more, man. Time is too short. And black people, when y'all get tired of these white folks whipping y'all and doggone lynching y'all, the only result is economics. Stop buying their stuff, man.
All right, Wes. Hey, man, but you must not be much fun to talk to these days, man, if you only want to talk serious stuff.
I mean, like, we had 400 years something of BS in the buffoonery, man.
Yeah, you're right, man. Yes, sir. I hear what you're saying. All right, man.
Spread the word, man. We got to hit them in the pocketbook.
Hit him in the pocketbook. You're not the only one making that point, man. A lot of brothers are making that very same point. The question is, how do you get us to act in a concerted way that would have some sort of economic effect? That is the question. Thank you, man. Appreciate it, Wes.
Well, when people get tired of getting beat over with the same old stuff going on, that's the only result. We're going to have to be. That's it, man. The only result, as I can see.
All right, brother. Yes, sir. I don't know. Brother John, let's go to you, man. How you doing, brother?
Great. Thank you, Salim.
Thank you.
This week we lost two Temptations in 1 week. Richard Street and Damon Harris.
Richard Street and Damon Harris. Okay.
Hello?
Yes, sir.
Okay. My question here is, what do black folks do? That's what I ponder a lot when I see different events like the statue Rosa Parks. Same with the large memorial dedicated to Dr. King. I said, well, what role do black people play in putting together the statue of Detroit resident Rosa Parks? I mean, do we sculpture? I guess not, because we played no role in it. None. Zero. And I don't like the statue. To me, Rosa Parks looks like a white guy with glasses on. Okay.
You know what?
And I don't. You know,
I must admit, I didn't even look at it, man.
Well, okay. Well,
I'll check it out. I'll check it out.
Because I'm going somewhere. What do we do here in this country? Okay. You mentioned Scalia.
Yes.
Scalia makes money. Scalia is sought after. He always has been sought after as a conservative.
Yes.
Okay. They make money. Where's the black counter to Scalia? Don't exist. Okay.
You mean the black ideological counterpart, or what? What do you mean? Because Clarence Thomas makes money. Clarence Thomas speaks different places. He says a few. I think he says a few words at different places. So he's
no. I'm not. I'm talking about the ideological.
Oh, okay.
The counter.
I got
the black person who has a counter.
Cornel West
ideology. The black look. This whole last few talking about black nationalism and Garveyism, all that. Look, that don't dictate public policy. It don't do nothing for anybody. Is Robin Kelly, your newly presumed congresswoman, she a Garveyite?
No, she isn't.
Come on,
not that I know of.
That don't do nothing to anybody or anywhere. That stuff's been dead for a long time.
It's still big on the fringes, brother. It's still big on the fringes. The fringes have some effect on the mainstream, don't they? Don't those tributaries create some momentum and eddies that have effect on the mainstream?
No. Okay, I don't know how. No, Salim, let me just with Section 5. Salim, Section 5 of the Voters' Rights Act. Listen, everybody, to judicially repeal or to deem it unconstitutional, it benefits Democrats, black folk. It benefits your friends. Doesn't benefit Republicans. They don't mind throwing all the blacks in one district. It benefits Republicans. So be careful about how we look at this argument and how we view this. And then I'll tell you this.
Well, no, Section 5 doesn't have anything to do with supermajorities, man.
Excuse me?
Section 5 doesn't have anything to do with supermajorities, which is what you're talking about.
Section 5 has to do with oversight.
Yes.
Judicial, the Justice Department. Right. When there is a particularly at the local level, because rarely this is done at the congressional level, but at the local level, to where the Democrats, Republicans are really all the same, to dilute the black vote. Things are done, okay, and this is where you have the oversight coming in from the Justice Department.
Right.
And I'm saying, black people, we can hold on to this. We're nowhere in terms of arguing this before the Supreme Court. Black lawyers are no parts of this. We can sit up here and act as if these things really matter. It doesn't. We haven't done anything with the vote since 1965, and I don't think if the Supreme Court confirms and maintains Section 5, we're going to do anything. Nobody speaks or say they represent the African American community. And let me just say, I will.
Well, that doesn't mean that no one will ever say that. And if the mechanism or the vehicle to manifest that expression in the political realm is gone, then it's gone. And and that vehicle we are unilaterally disarmed once again.
No. I disagree. I think it's a positive if they get rid of Section 5.
It's a quiver. It's a quiver in the quill, man.
Excuse me.
It's another arrow in the quiver. Let me say it that way.
Yeah. Let me just. I just want to say the emergency manager for here in Detroit.
Oh yeah, right. I thought that was going to be your subject.
I'm talking about the utility of black folk. The futility, should say, of black folk. The Governor Snyder. Okay, his people right now looking for the best black person they can find, preferably a black man, to come in and serve as the emergency manager.
Right.
Okay, They're looking to put a black person in that.
Well, that's good. I mean, they could, you know, there was some speculation that they would stick their finger even further in the eye of black people by picking someone who was you know, flagrantly white, so to speak.
Well, it doesn't matter. Okay, they'll just be black and skin color only to sort of. Yeah,
but I mean, at least that's a symbolic gesture that a lot of people. Think.
Yeah, that's my point. And enough of the symbolism. But the thing here is, in this city, black people think that they are entitled to a pension, entitled to a loan, entitled to a good education, entitled to good housing. We don't want to work for anything. We haven't worked to maintain this city, to keep this city up and going. We got white businessmen like Dan Gilbert, owner of Quicken Loans and the Cleveland Cavaliers, is buying up long-neglected downtown property, rehabbing it, turning it into technology centers. You got Illich, guy made his billions off selling pizza. Come on. He's buying up major portions of the city. What are African Americans doing? We're not doing anything. And that's why the city is in arrears. Why we can't pay our bills. That's what's going on here, Salim. The African American.
Now you mean there's nothing
years,
that you can report nothing positive happening coming out of the black community of Detroit, Brother John?
Because I know you, Salim, if you are able here in the city and you've kept up the last 4 or 5 months with the Kwame Kilpatrick trial.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
There still hasn't been a verdict, right? They're still deliberating.
No, right, they've been deliberating for 8 days or so. Okay.
Uh-huh.
And he may get off. They may have a hung jury.
A mistrial, right?
Yeah, he's looking good right now. But let me say this.
Mm-hmm.
If you looked at the inside goings-ons of city government, man, man, you think I'm just jumping on people, man. I'm not, brother. Believe me.
Okay.
It was a straight-up hustle, man. Everybody walking in the door was figuring out how can we hustle the city of Detroit.
Man.
And it has caught up with us, man. This guy was doing nothing in the city but taking bribes left and right. Nothing was ever being done. Businesses were never being established. Everybody was wanted to get on the city government tit, if you will, to figure out how they can get theirs. And nobody cared about the long-term viability of this town.
And now the chickens have come home to roost, you're saying.
If you got a 70-75% dropout rate, if you got 60% of black men with criminal records, what type of city you gonna have, Salim, if you project that out over 40 years?
Yeah. Well, I mean, so that means there was a need for investment in bettering the conditions of the black folks in the city, right? And those investments were not made.
Well, I'm happy you said that, because the city for the last 5 years have been on bended knee, begging Barack Obama to give us a bailout. They have. Because I'm going to tell you, the city would have went broke 20 years ago.
All right, man. All right, John, I hear you, brother. Thank you for the call.
All right.
Appreciate it. Brother John with dismal words from Detroit, actually. Let's go to White. Hey, White, how you doing, man?
I hear you watching.
Dwight. Dwight, yes, sir. All right.
Yeah, I hear you watching American Idol.
Oh man, my lady Force. That's one of her. I don't know why, but that's one of her favorite shows, and she got me.
She won't turn it on with you in the room, because I saw Nicki Minaj batting them eyes at you, brother. I can't.
I'm sorry I admitted that, man. I think I'm gonna be really sorry for that for a few weeks or so.
Anyway, for Brother West, I said I took the flu shot, and that I was gonna give a running commentary where the CDC done moved the needle over toward west side of the ledger by admitting that only 10% of the seniors got immunity from the flu shot. That's just ridiculous. It's 56% was for the general population, but only 10% of the elders got immunity from that daggone shot. And that's how we lose confidence in the efficacy of quote unquote modern medicine. Anyway,
that's right. That's for real.
Brother West, Brother John, the last time I heard him, he was telling me, just watch the football game. Don't worry about the Satan.
About Beyonce, I think he was making a comment on your critique of satanistic influences and whatnot.
I mean, but if he don't know about it, then how about going and look at what I'm talking about? Look, you can go to the overhead of the stage, which was those two faces, and you look at it with different focuses or foci, whatever the word is, and you can see at least 4 different images. So why are these people? If somebody's showing me something with one hand and trying to hide something from me in the other hand, which one am I needing to see? I want to see what you're hiding. So look at the halftime, John, and look at and ask yourself, why are these celebrities promoting Satanism to the community? Why are they promoting antisocial behavior like the promotion of the sisters that act like whores? This is the black sisters. They not promoting that to the white folks, promoting for the brothers that act like thieves and gangsters and misogynists and, all of this, negative behavior that's harming our community. Why would I ignore somebody intentionally putting that in the face of my children and my family?
The two things. First of all, Satanism is a matter of perception. Satan, of course,
a matter of what?
Of what you perceive. I mean, you perceive Satanistic influences. Other people looked at entertainment.
Come on, Salim. Look.
It is a matter of perception. And then, of course, Satanism is a culturally bound symbol anyway. Satanism is something that is specific to certain kinds of cultural perspectives. Satan, in fact, is a recent invention of certain kinds of theological perspectives.
That's true, but the four images that you could see, and I wasn't going to spend time on this, but you can see the two faces. Then if you look at it, you will see one face, and when you see the one face, if you look at it with a certain focus, then
let me say, what do you think is the intention of people?
Okay, let me get what's there first. Okay. You see the two faces, then you see the one face in one form is Taurus the bull. You look at it in another focus, and it's Baphomet. This image. That somebody took a pen and paper and drew and representation of Satan. So these people, they want to promote to and Beyonce is Eastern Star. Her husband is a Mason, and they want to promote the 10 Commandments for the uninitiated. Y'all don't lie, don't steal, and do all that, but we're not bound to that. See, we can steal and lie and do all of this other stuff, the initiated. So anyway, please let me move on.
Yes,
I want to get to some of the sequester stuff. Look, Barack Bush is the one who initiated the Simpson-Bowles Committee. When they came, he initiated the sequester portion of it. In that second debate, after Romney whooped his butt that first time, then the second debate he came back and he said, "I support Simpson-Bowles," which at that point, Simpson-Bowles equal the sequester. So he said, look, he wants to do the austerity. You and Mr. Wells was talking about the Federalist Society. The role of the Federalist Society at Harvard was they were the kingmakers as far as electing the president of the Harvard Law Review.
All right, we're running up on the top of the hour. I hear you, Brother Dwight. I appreciate you. Too bad we spent all of that time on Satanism, we could have been talking about something more substantial, in my view. But next time, my brother, thank you for
Yes,
calling.
sir. Hotep.
Brother Dwight and the Salim Muwakkil Show on the Talk of Chicago. It is 9:09 on March 2nd, and we are doing what we do, having conversations on what is going on in our community and how we can deal with it in a efficient and effective way. Back to the phones we go. Sarah, good evening. How are you, my sister? Sarah, are you there? Sister Sarah?
Hello, Salim?
Yes.
Can you hear? Okay.
I can hear you. How are you doing?
I have the greetings to you, Salim, and greetings to the WVON
Greetings
audience.
to you. Uh-huh.
Well, Salim, you have a table full. I was planning on listening in and not calling in tonight just to get caught up on everything that's been going on, but I just couldn't resist. And one of the things that I wanted to touch on, one of your topics that of interest to me is this situation that's going on, as you were saying, with the sequestration, and Dwight started off to touch on that earlier. And we've got to lay this blame on. We got to stop playing party politics, whether it's the Democrats' fault or it's the Republican fault or whatever. We have three branches. This government is running a trifecta: the legislative, the judicial, and the executive branch. And what we have here, we have 2/3 of this government is controlled by lawyers. You have the Supreme Court and you have the presidency, which is occupied by attorneys. Then you go to the other 535 representatives in the House and the Senate. The majority of them, they are attorneys. They're either attorneys or they're accountants. So we can see why, and you would think that with that so much top heavy with intelligence, you would have thought that they would be able to manage themselves better. That goes to show how this country has been taken over by corporate interests. It was always a corporate entity anyway, because the United States was founded as a corporate entity for profits, using black people as collateral in order for them to build this empire. And this is still continuing on up to this day with what's going on. That's why this debacle that's going on right now in the Supreme Court with Section 5 of the Voting Rights Act, and if they decided they wanted to go ahead and take it off the books, you know what? We as black people, we need a shock treatment. We need to wake the heck up. I think this might be something to wake us up, because, as you said, Salim, with us, we like to get run off on tangents. We like to get off in symbolism, as we did. Because this stuff was orchestrated on purpose, Salim. This selection of Barack Obama to run for president, it was done on purpose to suck the energy out of the black movement. Because these people, they know us. They know we as black people, we get emotional. We don't matter what somebody do, as long as we hear it's a hint of racism, that it might be going after him because of a skin color or whatever, we're going to jump on board and we're going to throw all cautions to the wind, forgetting what that even though, yes, we have to have a solidarity as a people, but we have some people within our group that, you know what, we need to let them go out to the dogs and let the dogs do with them what they will. Because we cannot afford...
So Sarah disappeared. Sarah, call back. I'm sorry about that. Something went down. Let's go back to the phones. Here's this White. Who's this? I'm sorry.
Hi, Salim. This is Pam. How are you?
Pam. How are you, Pam? How you doing?
I'm well, thank you.
Good.
Enjoying the conversation. And let me just say, Salim, I'm sure glad that our ancestors enslaved and all that they went through, obviously they had some ray of hope that things could get better and change. Do you agree with that, or am I just off on that?
Yes, I think they had to have that. That's the only thing that could sustain them, I would imagine, you know?
Thank you. So let us have some of that same sustenance and just believe it's within our power to change some things. It won't be easy. And I know it's a different time, and maybe the unity might be on a different level. But let's please have some hope that we can make it better.
Mm-hmm. Yes, a lot of people seem to be giving up. I think, you know, often as they say, you know, the darkest hour is right before the dawn, kind of thing.
Sure, and I understand the reality of the situation, so I'm not coming to it naive, but I'm never going to give up. Let me just say about the sequestration. Salim, what made President Obama think, or what pattern did he see in his negotiations with Republicans that they would ever want to work with him, agree with him, and just wouldn't allow this sequestration to go through? Because I knew Salim at this point had discussions with family members and friends that the Republicans no way were going to want to work anything out with him.
Well, I think he realized that, Pam. I think one of the things he was trying to do that was different this time was he bully pulpitted. You know, he was out with the people trying to sell it, rather than negotiating behind closed doors until the last moment or so. I don't think he expected the Republicans to do anything different. I think he was trying to embarrass them by electoral pressure into acting more responsibly. Okay. But as many people have pointed out, I don't think the Republicans are in any way. I don't think they have the incentive to act responsibly. They are in very secure districts, and their constituents want them to be as obstructionist as they can be. So, you know, I think they have every incentive to keep being as foolish and ridiculous as they are being. Sure.
So the president didn't know that back when sequestration was put forth?
Yeah, well, I think then he thought that that some the defense cuts would be too much for the Republicans to abide, and they wouldn't allow that to go through.
Okay, stop right there, Salim. Mm-hmm. Which advisors told him that would be the case? I guess because my concern is I saw it from the beginning that the Republicans wouldn't care as long as they got cuts that would impact the poor people. I'm going to say maybe the 99%ers, that they wouldn't care about defense contracts.
Well, in some ways, this has been more damaging to some of the Republicans. I think this is some of the calculations that the Democrats, that the Obama people use. In some ways, these cuts are more damaging than for the Republicans' priorities than they are for the Democrats. For example, the entitlements were exempt. And that's something that the Republicans have been nipping at for a long time, and so they were exempt from the negotiations and the sequester, and so the only thing that was eligible were these other kinds of programs, and so I guess and the cuts for. In defense were more substantial, and that was something that the Republicans would be more reluctant to allow to happen. Mm-hmm. And I think that was the calculation behind the Democrats going for the sequester as a last-ditch kind of, something to keep the Republicans from going over the cliff.
Well, it was a wrong-headed, to use the president's words, calculation because. I just knew we would be dealing with this issue now. Let me move on to Rosa Parks. Mm-hmm. I agree with that brother. I do not like the sculpture.
You don't like it either, huh?
No, I do not. And certainly he put forth a very good question. We don't have any black sculptors. They couldn't do King because of the stone, and then they couldn't do Rosa Parks either.
Yeah, that is pretty unbelievable that they couldn't come up with a black sculptor who could do something, a credible job of those figures, those iconic figures.
And it may not be important to anybody else, but it's important to me. As I have had conversations with some artists, they say two artists can do the same sculpture, and you will see a different vision of each sculpture.
That's right.
So I tend to think that someone of African American descent could capture the essence of all of Rosa Parks, not just not just the physical likeness, but the true essence of what she did, what she meant. And so I was a little bit concerned about that. And now let me talk about Jesse Jackson Jr. because he's received a lot of praise because he worked on the legislation to make this happen, correct?
Right.
So let me ask Salim, what do we do, or maybe this is my dilemma, because you have Congressman Jesse Jackson who uplift one of our civil rights legends, Rosa Parks, but you have him who worked in Chicago to decimate one, which was Alderman Tillman. And destroy the political party. I asked you, Salim, because you're more in tune. Do you know any other alderman who fought harder on behalf of black people trying to build something that is owned and controlled by black people, who made sure that the contractors who worked on the project, I think were at least, 60 or 70%, who talked about building a hotel. Now all of a sudden we have Rahm Emanuel who wants to do this McCormick and South Loop hotel deal. I mean, do you know any other alderman who I said in the hearings when her children strategically laid out the case regarding reparations and having companies to produce proof that they didn't benefit from it?
No, I don't know. I don't know any of the aldermen who push forward those kinds of progressive looking legislation.
And truly just fought for black people. So I know people have many disagreements with Alderman Tillman, but I'm just saying, so we have Congressman Jesse Jackson Jr., former congressman, who uplifted one and worked to the dismantle of the other, as well as some of the black political structure. And I think we don't really want to talk about that. I'm not trying to knock him while he's down, Salim, but I didn't hear much of that conversation when he was still in office. And
but you know, there are, you know, see, this is always the dilemma of dealing in the political realm. Is that it's always refracted by interest. Whatever you know, you see somebody's behavior and you refract that behavior according to what your interests are. There are people who look at Jesse as being a kingmaker of Robin Kelly, of various of even like Toy Hudson, even, you know, a lot of South suburban politicians who got their start with Jackson, that he provoked a whole new generation of young, aggressive and ambitious politicians in the South suburbs, and there are people who say that he did much in the Congress to embellish the stature of jazz. For example, he worked with Conyers to do a lot of very important legislation on heritage issues, black heritage issues. So I mean, it all depends on where you wanna place the Reverend. I mean, like all politicians, man. You mean
the congressman? Mm-hmm.
He has the congressman, right? He has good things and bad things.
Sure, but I just think what happened in Chicago with that particular piece of it was really detrimental. But that could just be my point of view. And just may I go on to Minister Farrakhan. I did not attend the event at St. Sabina. But at Savior's Day, Minister Farrakhan, and I don't know if you caught this on the news or in the paper, Salim, Minister Farrakhan made a statement that he would like to recruit gang members and, of course, work with them and turn their lives around to help them protect property owned by the Nation of Islam. Do you recall that?
I did. I heard him say it.
Okay, now, do you know, so I think maybe the day after, Rahm Emanuel was at a press conference, and he had several of the aldermen standing behind him, as he usually does. And the question came, I guess they asked him, what did he think about that? And so he abruptly said, well, I don't think there's no role for gang members at all. Just something to that effect.
Right.
And I thought, who is he to say, what gang members can be reformed and have a contribution to our community? And it seems to me that I'm going to say just about all other ethnicities want to treat black people like we're children, Salim, and they want to dictate what is good for our community. So at some point, we are going to have enough discipline to stand up, to speak out, and to do what's right.
Yes, exactly. I mean, I agree with you, Pam. What undermines our authority to do that is this continuing carnage in our communities. People say, well, if you can't control your own communities, how can you say, obviously you need somebody to tell you what to do. I mean, I guess that's Rahm Emanuel's attitude, because you don't seem to be having any effect on your own community.
Sure, but if we look at the violence and analyze it,
but it is strange, incidentally, that he would say that about about Minister Louis Farrakhan and the Nation of Islam, because previous to that he had spoken well about what the minister is doing by going out into the community and trying to be a positive role model in black communities, and part of what the minister is doing is to influence gang members to be positive role models themselves. So I don't see why that's any different.
I didn't see a problem with it. Maybe not all gang members can be reformed, but I like to think most of them can.
Yes,
and
right.
as I've said many, many times, Salim, if we're going to deal with the issue of violence, we're going to have to look at the drugs. We're going to have to look at the alcohol abuse. We're going to have to look at the lack of resources. Now, it was wonderful that the First Lady was here talking about let's move, physical fitness, getting our children good nutrition and exercise. But on the opposite end of that, Salim, they were talking about closing, almost 200 schools?
Was she talking about that as well? I know she came with Arnie Duncan.
No, her campaign the last time she was here, which was recently, her campaign was about the fitness and let's move and let's be active in the schools. But my thought was, were they getting ready to close many of our schools down?
Yeah, they are. That is true. But there has been some significant pushback. And apparently that pushback has been effective, because it's caused the board to be a little bit more reticent on some of their activities.
And lastly, let me just say regarding education, Dr. Bird Bennett is supposed to be really pushing the fact that the African American history is going to be part of the educational system. So I hope the right people are helping to put together that curriculum so that the truth can be told.
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely.
And it can come from our perspective.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Salim.
Have
a good night.
You too, babe. All right. Good stuff. Let's go to I think Sarah's back. Let's go to Sarah. Hey, Sarah. Sorry about that, my sister.
That's okay, Salim. Thank you. I'm just going to be brief because I know you have less time to get to other callers. But to tack on to what I was going to say originally, Salim, with the situation with the Rosa Parks statue and what's going on with the Supreme Court with the Section 5 that's going to be possibly get repealed. I think in a way, Salim, we as the people of the community, we need a shock to our system in order to get us out of this lethargic mode that we are in. Because I agree with the I don't like the statue of Rosa Parks. I find it was offensive for one thing. Once again, we have an iconic leader that it has been sourced out to a Caucasian male to go and to put the statue together. They have the woman sitting down. Now here it is that she's in the statuary hall with all these other statues, all these other white people standing up on their feet, towering above her, and here's this woman sitting on a bench in a submissive role with all these other people standing over her. I find it offensive because if they could use her mugshot from when she was getting booked in, from when she was protesting from sitting on that bench, that's what they use for her stamp. They use that image of her standing up, getting booked in to make her stamp image. Why it is that you couldn't find any other image of Rosa Parks standing up in a commanding position in order to sculpt her? And as you said, why it is that we don't have a black man? There have been several black well-known artists. The man who was going to do Dr. King's memorial, that they did not give it to him. They ended up sending it over to China and outsourcing it.
Right.
These are the things, Salim, that I'm seeing the disrespect that black people have gotten in this country, and this could only come as the result of so-called elevating a black man in office. And all of a sudden, people are saying that, okay, we have come full circle, we elected a black man to office, and la-di-da, and so therefore you can't scream racism, everything is all fine and good now.
You know what, I think that you have a very good point, Sarah. I mean, I generally hesitate to go that far, but it seems very clear that there's some countervail. There's some alternative kind of reaction, or some sort of response to to this ascension of a black president. Some negative, some shadow response from the psyche of white people that's driving them into these excesses of racism. Man, it's really amazing how that's happening, and you see it across and not just in this country, but you see it in other European
worldwide. It's a worldwide. You see, that's why I keep saying, Salim, this was done on purpose because they know that the things that they wanted to have done, it would not been able to get done with a white person. If they could get a black person where all the world is tied into this man emotionally, they want him to succeed. They will overlook all of his faults. Hello?
Yes, ma'am. You're still here.
They will overlook all of his faults and everything that he has done because he's a black man, he's a first, and they want him to do everything. That's why there's no protest movement. The CBC is silent. They're not saying anything. They've condoned all of this nonsense. As you said, what's going on with the sequestration. Nobody has said anything because if this was a white person, it would not have been able to done, and that is why they've done it, because, we as black people, we are emotional people, and we're going to circle our wagons and to protect one of our own, regardless of what they do, if we sense that there's a hint of racism out here, like we did with Susan Rice, even though all those things that she did on the African continent, but because there was a hint of racism with John McCain and Lindsey Graham, everybody circled the wagon around her. And that's the same thing that is happening with this presidency, and that's why the movement has been killed. And we're going to find ourselves in a very disastrous position, Salim, because we are not seeing it.
That's right. All right. Thank you, my sister. I hear you.
You're welcome, Salim.
All right. I agree with Sarah. But I kind of always that I've seen for a while that black people kind of circle the wagons around the president, and we rather protect him. We don't want him to be seen as a failed president, so we don't beleaguer him with demands that he respond to our misery, and we are certainly having disproportionate miseries. And rather than complain to the president, we let him go because we want him to seem as a failure. We want his tenure to be successful. And so I understand that. But what I'm talking about is something else, something even maybe metaphysical even. It seems as if there's a shadow reaction to the president's success, that's psychic, that is pushing people to some excesses in a dark way that I don't even think they understand. I mean, there's stuff in France where they're using this white woman for African queen, and they're proud of it. They're not even ashamed when they get busted with that bold appropriation, racial appropriation, rather than bow their heads and say, "Look, we are guilty of white supremacy." They're proud of it. That's a troubling development, and I think it's part of this thing. And I don't know what it is. It's a mystery, perhaps. Let's go to Ryan. Hey, Ryan, how you doing?
Oh boy. Okay, brother Salim. Now.
This is Larry. Straight. Okay. Hey, man, how you doing, Larry?
Yeah, brother. It's always good to talk to you. I'm
sir.
thoroughly enjoying this show. I cannot tell you how much. In fact, Sister Sarah's call has just got me to thinking. I got an inquiring. Now, let me get this straight. Now, in order to lull black people asleep and inhibit the black revolutionary movement, what they did was install a Marxist usurper to wreck the economy, and therefore this would accomplish the white supremacist great big plans.
Yes.
I'm going to kind of paraphrase our great former Secretary of State. What difference does it make? Good Lord, I mean, this is really amusing. I can't get over it. But look, let me go on here.
Okay.
I need your help with an enigma and a mystery.
All right.
Okay, you're right. Now, and I really need your help badly, sir.
Okay.
Now, in 6 separate press conferences I can think of now, I have seen flies alight on Barack Obama's face 6 separate times. 6, count them 6. Now, I've never seen that with any president, any press conference before. With this man, we got 6. Now, since we know the insect family known as diphtheria and their affinity for certain cast-off biological material, are they finding out something the rest of us need to know about?
Oh, man, Larry.
I'm just wondering. Inquiring mind, I want to know, brother. And let me go on here now.
Okay.
Now, we got the great sequestration debate here now, and we know for a fact the president has patrimony of idea. He now characterized as a brutal and senseless assault on America. The president and his then chief of staff.
Well, there's still some debate over who has patrimony. Although,
well, he does.
Woodward
He does.
insists.
Because I tell you who it was. You had a sister ask a question earlier. I'm gonna answer for the sister.
Okay.
This then chief of staff, when it came up, was a guy named Jack Lew.
Right.
And that was the aid that gave him the idea of sequester, which he signed on to. And they misled the public about their role in giving birth to the sequester idea. Now, the House Republicans, not the Senate, but the House Republicans have two times, passed legislation to avoid the sequester cuts with carefully targeted ones, but the Senate Democrats refused to act on them.
Well,
and Obama also...
The Senate Republicans wouldn't let him act on it.
Okay, but I'm saying they didn't. They gave. They were gonna try and avoid the cuts, but Obama didn't want to. He didn't want to. He brushed off a Republican plan, which would give him flexibility to allocate the $85 billion in spending cuts. But then he decides to go across the board with services that should be the last he should target. You know, like immigration. Or allowed to be targeted. And of course, he's got no connection to the government. It's just people who work at the immigration department doing it. I didn't tell them to do it. They just did it on their own. They're anticipating this question, which hasn't even gone into effect yet. He got no connection with the government. He don't run nothing. They do. And I did some quick math. In 2008, the federal government spent $8,900 for every man, woman, and child in this country. Last year, they spent $10,200 for every man, woman, and child in the country. Now, in 2008, we could house criminals, inoculate children, control air traffic, and do a million other one-sundry things the federal government, many of which ain't even supposed to be doing. But today, we're going to unleash financial Armageddon if we slow down the increase a couple of percentage points, like 2 cents of every dollar. Now, we're spending 15% more, de-escalating 2 wars, and we can't manage to provide the necessary services. Does that say something about this guy's management style?
Well, it says that he's just using high level rhetoric to scare people into pressuring the Republicans to go along with his deal. It's a political.
What's that say about it, brother?
Huh?
All right, now look at here. Let me just say one more thing, because I want to put you on the path as a leftist journalist who's going to be on top, because nobody else even tells you about it. Okay. And when it all breaks, you're going to have the inside track, because I want you to have it, Salim. Okay. Because I know you at least have the intellectual honesty to at least consider this.
Butter me up.
Sheriff Arpaio in Arizona has pretty much got everything he needs about the forged birth certificate. He's pretty much wrapping that up, although there's still a little more stuff that's going to come out. He's now working on Obama's alias, Harry Bunnell, which is a name that's attached to the Social Security number that he used on his income tax return. Now, this is not an opinion, Salim. This is a number he put on his income tax return. So Sheriff Arpaio is now investigating Harrison J. Bunnell. Some stuff's getting ready to come out about that. Of course, mainstream press going to do everything they can to avoid it, but we are talking now, Salim, about...
Will Fox News avoid it, too?
Not opinion.
Will Fox News avoid it?
Huh?
Will Fox News avoid it as well?
Oh, they will, too. All of them are cowards. They will not touch this until something blows up, and they cannot avoid it. They're doing all of them.
Well, Alex Jones?
All of them. The Republicans, because they're complicit in this. Fox News is complicit. Rush Limbaugh. All of them.
Okay.
Okay? But look, the stuff is going to come up. This guy is applying proven law enforcement techniques to get to the bottom of this. There are records. There are government records. It's not me. I didn't put them there.
Well, I await with bated breath, Larry, for that to come out.
Well, yeah, and I'm just saying, when it comes out, see, I've pointed you in the right direction.
Okay.
Now, you can be like an ostrich like the others, or you can do some research on your own. Okay. I'm sure you will come to the same conclusion.
All right. Thank you, man. Appreciate
it. Good luck, boss.
Brother Larry with some provocative information. Of course, it is highly skewed, but provocative nonetheless. Mike, hey, man.
Hey, how you doing, Salim?
I'm well, man. How are you?
You know, I heard Sister Pat talk about our ancestors. You know, I think that when we talk about our ancestors, we need to be a little more specific because we have some ancestors that we can elevate, and we have some ancestors that we should frown upon. So when we say our ancestors and we group all of the black folk who have come and gone and put them all in one basket called the ancestors, we do a discredit.
But they are our ancestors, no matter what they did, right?
Yeah, well, I don't question that, except I don't really want to give any credit whatsoever to people like our ancestors who turned in Demar Vesey and Nat Turner.
All right.
I don't want to call them my ancestors.
But they are, though, right?
Well, I understand that, but I don't want to give them any credit for having.
But I mean, I think it's good to know that tendency exists in our people, so we be on the lookout for it.
Well, it exists more than ever now, it appears. But, you know, here's what I really want to talk about. Have you seen Hidden Colors?
No, I haven't.
Okay, I would like you to get a hold. There are 2 DVDs, one called Hidden Colors, one called Hidden Colors 2.
Okay.
In Hidden Colors 2 specifically, Claude Anderson is in Hidden Colors 2. And it appears that Brother Anderson speaks out both sides of his neck, because I've heard him on VON, of course, and now I see him on Hidden Colors too, and it seems like I'm listening to a totally different guy.
Why is that?
Well, on VON, he supports everything that Negroes do, like voting and marching, etc. On Hidden Colors, he says voting ain't worth a hoot, and marching ain't worth a poot.
I can't, you know, I've never really listened real closely to him, but reading his book, Powernomics, he doesn't seem to be that infatuated with those traditional means of protest, voting, and marching.
Well, it depends on who he's on with, because I've heard him on with Al Sharpton.
But I mean, his
and
writing.
When he's on with Al Sharpton, he supports all of the Negro activity that Al Sharpton supports, like voter registration,
maybe it's just a strategic
marching, etc.
Maybe it's just a strategic tactic on a strategic move on his part to try to gain some influence with Sharpton. I don't know. Maybe that's it.
Well, I think that if you know that deep in your heart that these tactics really have gained us very little or nothing, to support them because you're on with the likes of Al Sharpton doesn't lend much to your credibility, to me. But that's because I pay attention to what people say. And you asked the brother from Dallas, Michael, did he still have hope? And he didn't answer you. I guess that was his answer. But, hope is not a solution. Hope is a cliche coined by a retarded Negro named Jesse Jackson.
Well, hope is a word, man, that existed before Jesse.
Of course it's a word. It's also a cliche coined by Jesse Jackson.
Sure,
and when we hear the word hope, that's the first thing you think about. That's the first thing I think about.
Well, I mean, it was also part of Barack Obama's campaign slogan.
Yeah, well, that doesn't make me feel any better either, because I don't have no respect.
I know, but what I'm saying is that it can be used wherever you want to use it. It doesn't belong to anybody in particular. It can be used wherever you want to use it.
Hello?
Yes.
Yeah, I understand that, Salim. In regards to this statue of the sister that was, I guess it was done by a Caucasian, of her sitting down. Well, I mean, her claim to fame was that she didn't give her seat to somebody on the bus, which means she was sitting down, right?
Right.
Okay, so why are people upset at the fact that the statue is of her sitting down? I don't get that.
Yes, sir.
We got to quit wasting our time on nonsense. We got too many problems, and if we continue down this path, we ain't gonna have to worry about talking about it, because there ain't gonna be none of us left to talk about it.
Maybe right about that, brother.
Have a good one.
Thank you. All right, let's go to Shelby. Hey, Shelby, how you doing, brother?
Hey, brother Salim, how you doing, man?
Hey, man, good to hear you.
Hey, look. First thing, man. Thank you for your show, man. You got some Man, look, if you put Pam and the sister Sarah in charge, we'd be all right, man. Powerful sister.
The sisters,
Hey,
that's
look,
right.
man,
The sisters will do it.
Hey, I love to. Hey, you know, Pam reminds me of Sister Soldier, man.
Does she? Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
she's very articulate and very clear, man. And I
She
do.
is that.
And look, hey, Brother Salim, did you see at the Urban Institute that Sister Michelle Alexander was a keynote speaker at an event that they entitled "Black Families 5 Decades After the Moynihan Report"?
Yes, I did see that.
Oh, really? Oh, well, that was great. Hey, man, you know, when I was reading her book, she referenced 2 of your articles. Do you know that she referenced 2 of your articles in her book?
No, I didn't see that. No. Right.
Yeah, in chapter 5, it's called Black Men Missing.
Okay. All right.
You did
Very
that
good.
one?
Yeah.
And in chapter 6, she referenced your Gina and the post-civil rights fallacy.
Oh, dig that. Okay. Yeah. All right. Yes. In fact, I do remember that. Yes, I did.
Yeah, but you see the problem, Brother Salim. You were saying in that Gina and the post-civil rights fallacy was that the Gina was going to be a new civil rights movement.
That's what people were saying at the time, right?
Yeah, but man, I don't think that came about. Now on your show tonight,
in fact, I wrote a piece after that, which talked about the influence of the Obama campaign on that.
Okay, I missed that one.
Yeah.
That's in the Times. That's
in these times, yes, sir.
Okay, I'm gonna look for. Hey, look, one last thing, man. I appreciate Brother Dwight, man. That brother is very heavy. Now, you know, he talked about a book a while back called Overthrown. Are you familiar with that book?
I am very much familiar with it. Yes, I am.
Yeah, now look, in the book, they talk about 14 countries that the U.S. government and the CIA and the rest of those little alphabet soup organizations overthrew. 14 countries. Hey, look,
he said the U.S. has overthrown more countries than all other nations combined.
But wait a minute. That book only talks about 14. Now, this author was on Book TV a while back, and he said that a CIA agent told him that he missed several countries that they overthrew. So, brother, it's worse than that book even can say.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And he speaks on that, right? I've heard him speak on that myself, in which he says that he did leave out some countries. In fact, the subversion that this country has provoked in other nations expands that number way beyond 14.
Yeah. Now, hey, Brother Salim, I know I said one last thing, but did you ever hear John Henry Clark's lecture on fake leadership?
Several. I've heard several lectures in which that was a subject, at least partially.
Now, you know the 2 people that he mentioned, Brother Salim?
Farrakhan and
Dr. Malana Karenga.
Yes, he did. Right.
Yeah. Okay, but I'm gonna talk about that with you a little bit later. Yeah,
okay.
I know you got
That's a provocative subject indeed.
hey, thanks a lot, man. Have a nice evening.
All right, brother. You too, Shelby.
Man, I do. I really do, man.
All right, man.
All right, later, man.
All right, Shelby. Always interesting stuff. Let's go to James. Hey, James.
Good evening, brother.
Good evening.
Brother, as far as hate for their boy, the president, was there a black president when they lynched black people in the public square, took pictures, and took souvenirs from those black people's bodies in a carnival atmosphere?
There wasn't a black president then, no.
No, but the hate was the same.
That's true.
Yeah, so it's not about a black president. Brother, are you aware that the filibuster can stop a law from passing even when the other people might have the majority of the votes?
Well, the threat of a filibuster. Absolutely.
Right. Now, when Reagan was doing everything he wanted to do, the Democrats never challenged Reagan, never had no filibusters. Now, here we got filibusters coming left and right. The Democrats, who can stop the filibuster, they don't. And you got these Negroes keep calling up, not seeing that this is one party. I don't understand how they don't see this. He'll read.
Well, they may see it, but then we're here. We are, right?
Yeah, but why don't you just? But you keep saying like you're looking for Barack Bush to do something. Here, Harry Reid had a chance to stop the filibuster, but he didn't. He let it go. When Reagan was in, they didn't. The Democrats didn't filibuster nothing.
That's because they thought they may lose the Senate, and he didn't want to give the Republicans another tool.
Oh, I don't believe that at all. They all in cahoots. Then when Clinton, the black president, came by other black presidents.
So James, if information comes up that contests or challenges your previous information, you simply reject it and say you don't believe it and keep on believing.
Well, from what I had saw and read, that's why I said that.
Okay.
Now if you saw something different, okay, we just have to have a disagreement.
Well, I'm just reporting on the reasoning that they gave for not challenging the filibuster rules, for not making it more difficult for them to do it, because they thought they may lose the Senate, and if they lost the Senate, it would make things more difficult for them at that point. So he just wanted to see what the result of the election would be.
Yeah, I don't believe that. That don't even make sense. And look, I'll name you a list of things where the Democrats went right along with the Republicans. And Clinton came right behind Reagan and did the same thing to people. Here's a Democratic president. He sent jobs out of the country, right along with Reagan, cut welfare while he's sending jobs out, telling people to go look for a job. These people are Democrats. But yet, still, people don't see that they are all in cahoots.
I think people see it. I mean, some people may not. Well,
they
see
don't want to.
You're right. I think some people don't see it. They've been bamboozled, as you would say. But some people do see it, and they say, "Well, what's the alternative? We have to develop another party, or we have to develop a new way of
another party
arranging the economy or something."
Well, that's out. Well, my alternative. I didn't say it. My alternative. People may not like it, but that's the only alternative I know. If you're able to get out of here, because the deal is going down, brother. Have you noticed? I done said this before. There are things that's happening in this country that's real. There are accidents that's real. There are people that get killed for real. But we are seeing crazy stories right behind each other. Bam, bam, bam. Somebody's priming us for something big, really bad.
All right, my brother.
And I don't think they're just priming us. I think they're priming the general white public for what's going to go down. And Dr. Wellesley agrees with me. And it's so sad.
Frances Wellesley?
Yes, sir. You know, it's so sad. We hear very little from her. And even the black media, when they do have her on, it's real quick and fast. And this lady is a professional, and she got enough courage and guts to say what I'm saying, and we hear very little from her. She's hitting it right on the head.
All right, brother.
Something big finna go down here, and we're going to get caught up.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it, brother. All right. Brother James warning us. Let's go to Cleon. Hey, Cleon.
Hey, what's going on, Salim?
I'm good, man. How you doing?
I'm doing okay, man. I haven't called in a long time.
I'm glad to hear you, brother.
But I've been listening to you, and I went out to go see that movie on our brother Bob Marley.
Oh, good. You were in the audience. All right. I hope you enjoyed the movie.
Oh, it was a great documentary, man. I learned so much about this brother who I didn't, I knew about his music, but I didn't know about him. But, I'm going to say this, man, about the violence here in Chicago.
Yes, sir.
I watched Channel 11 I want to say that was last night. They had a panel on there, a panel discussion. Very interesting. They had Anita Alvarez on there. They had the chief cop here in Chicago,
McCarthy.
And they had Father Flake and everything.
Okay.
And man, these parents whose children got killed had some very interesting questions and comments on this panel. It came on Thursday.
Okay.
And man, the real problem here is nobody really wants to solve the problem, because it's about money, man. It's about deaths. Deaths equate to money here. I know that sounds crazy, but in our community, death equates to that, man. It's like when these young people get killed, it's nothing done. But let's lock up the people who committed the crime.
Mm-hmm.
And once the person get locked up, there's no rehabilitation for these young black men that's going to jail, but to lock them up.
Right.
Because the sister that was in the panel asked the top cop, what is the alternative? He told her basically, my job comes first as a police officer. I'm not going to deal with, the solution. My solution is to come to the situation and lock these people up.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, we know the problem, drugs and guns. We know that.
Yes, sir.
If you get the drugs out of the community, then we can deal with the gun situation.
All right, my brother Cleon, I'm trying to get some. I only got a little bit of time. I got a lot of callers I'm trying to get on to do a little quick, presentation. So I have to hustle you along, my brother. Call again soon, man. All right?
No problem.
Take care now. Brother Cleon, let's go to Cliff. Hey, Cliff.
Hey, what's happening, Salim? Real
cool,
quick,
man. How are you?
After the Larry call, I swear, I've been listening to your show for years, but that had to be the best. I mean, Barack Obama's name is Harry. Dude, and the sheriff that doesn't like immigrants is the one doing the investigation. That was you can't make this up.
Yeah,
you
Larry.
Can't make this up, man.
It's amazing how dedicated he is to that perspective, man. It really.
I
is.
know, but you know what? A part of just living, you have to look at the lighter side of things, and that's. I'm sorry, that one I can't even see because you can't see the logic in it. That's what exactly. Let it out when this show goes off. Just crack up at Harry being Obama's name, and he's been investigated by the racist sheriff. Anyway, and nothing's wrong with that. But you brought up a great question about the since Obama, the post civil rights and kind of how white people have been acting, so to speak. I have thought that, and I've sensed it, and I've come to the same questioning that you have, maybe in different words or whatever, but I've come to that same question, Salim, and I've been asking myself this for a few years now.
It is pretty odd, isn't it? It's an odd
you know what? I think what's odd is the terminology that we say post-civil rights, that it's supposed to get better, and this has all of a sudden come up. So it's kind of a conflict, and that's where I first found myself. Like, really, is this happening? But you know what, Salim? I've kind of researched it and just thought about it and asked that question as well. And one thing I can point to is definitely the socialization. Like I said, I've been listening to your show for years, and you had a cat on, I don't know if it was a year or two ago, that talked about how racism was kind of set up to be benefited from, that the intent of racism was an economic thing more so than it was of people and divided with white supremacy, blah, blah, blah. And I can't remember his name, but that has to me, I can tie that with the socialization from slavery on to now, and in a sense of, and we're just going to point at white people, and I don't want to say that in a racial way, I'm going to say it real fast, but how they've been made to kind of benefit from white supremacy and feel great and feel this way and feel that way, blah, 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 blah. So this came up now, so it's always been building since, for me, and from my research, since Reconstruction, and then it got beat down with segregation, blah, blah, blah. But if you look at the civil rights movement until Obama and what we call the post-civil rights, it has always been seeding. 70s, you couldn't say the N-word as a white person and get away without being hurt. 80s, it kind of loosened up, and when rap came out and they started listening to it, that socialization took another turn. I think, honestly, part of it is they finally have a release of the fear that they've always been socialized to fear. If I'm saying that correctly, you know what I mean? They've always been kind of socialized, and I'm not saying this in a bad way about white people. It's just society and the society we live in.
Well, no, I mean, that's the way white people were socialized, right?
Exactly, and I think,
they had an economic stake in white supremacy.
Right, and there was a benefit from it. Now, I'm not saying that they didn't have it hard or nothing like that. I don't want people to misconstrue it, and that's why I'm kind of talking fast, and at the last bit of your show.
Cliff, let me. I think I got your point, cool, brother, and it's insightful. I hear you. Let's go to somebody else. Appreciate it. Call again soon. Let's go to Anita. Assalamu alaikum, Anita.
Walaikum assalam. How you doing, Salim?
I'm well, my sister.
That's good. African American men. You are a complete miracle. There was nothing in this world keeping you together but God. And that's all that's going to keep you together. Whatever you think of doing, don't listen to the Jewish community, don't listen to the Christian community. And the Muslims have been helping, I think, the most. So Don't worry about none of the negative talk. You're doing just fine. You just don't know how much you were up against. God bless all black men.
All right. That's your message? All right, Anita. That's a good message. Hey, I didn't know it was going to be that quick. I got an Andrew. Real quick, man.
All right, I have a very quick question for you.
Yes, sir.
That brother who was talking about somebody who had wrote a book about powernomics, but yet when he's on Al Sharpton's show, he's in favor of protesting and marching, but when he's on somebody else's show, he discredits that. Was he talking about Dr. Claude Anderson?
That's who he was talking about. Yes.
Do
sir.
you think he was telling the truth with respect to Dr. Claude Anderson?
I think it was he got the wrong. He you can hear what you hear, according to your own perspective, and I think that's a clear case of it.
Oh, he heard what he wanted to hear, but you don't think he was really quoting him correctly?
Well, I think Claude Anderson may have been trying to enlist Sharpton into one of his programs, and you pick your battles, man. Sometimes you act as if you can go for something and you don't contest it, and sometimes you contest it. So I don't find anything real hypocritical about that or odd about it at all.
Oh, but he was talking about